All right. Hi, everyone. I want to talk to you today about systematic conservation planning in the Appalachian region, but first we have to go back to this question of what are landscape conservation cooperatives. Maybe you've heard of them. They came into being about 9 years ago from the Department of the Interior, which identified something that I think we're all starting to recognize, is that focusing on just one particular area or habitat isn't cutting it in today's conservation landscape. And so they tasked these organizations to come together. They self-form their processes and have formed networks, 22 of which across North America, and are self-regulating and have produced really impactful conservation plans for these regions. I first started my experience with the LCCs through the Appalachian LCC with my work at Clemson University. I contributed to layers that went into this prioritization map for the region. And this is one way of representing how you select on the landscapes where to coordinate and plan conservation action. Another different way of demonstrating this process is with the South Atlantic LCC, which had more of a kind of relative approach. And what this shows is that these different LCCs, while successful within their own borders, have had quite different processes and modeling techniques in order to come up with their plans. And while this has benefits for making these relevant for the local areas, there's also been some severe challenges. The greatest challenge, however, is the uncertain future of the LC system as a whole. In our current political climate, there have been strong signals that this network of organizations is not looking good for its funding future. And so what does that mean for us who think that there's something there in this landscape design? Well, for my part, as a first-year student, I am putting together a proposal for understanding, in particular, the Appalachian LCC and what it has done and how it's done it. So my research questions as such are, in this process of bringing together people, who should be engaged as stakeholders, and how can the process of facilitating interactions be improved were the LCC system to continue or future systems like it to be created? How do these stakeholders shape the process and translate regional planning into local outcomes? So I think one of the tensions that we've seen in the LCC is that these stakeholders, these professionals from local, state, and federal organizations come together, make these plans, but there's not a great sense of the scalability of this from the regional planning to the local levels. How are they informing each other? And lastly, in what ways can we refocus the models and tools to produce more holistic social, ecological prioritizations? So being involved in the process to the limited degree that I saw that there was a real emphasis on the ecological side and not so much on the socio-cultural side, and I think there are real opportunities here, particularly across the networks as a whole. So how do I plan on doing this? First, I really want to inquire into the process and the stakeholders and researchers who are involved in putting this plan together. I then want to go to the communities that have been noted on these plans to be of high priority and see how these partnerships that have been formed have actually translated to on-the-ground action, and through community-engaged research understand where are opportunities for improving these methods. So taking lessons learned from here and then translating that into more of a spatial quantitative approach. So comparing across the region, how has the spatial modeling been effective in conservation capacity, and what are ways that we can improve the models to improve the dimensions through which we're investigating these prioritizations. So ultimately what I hope this looks like is that I am able to contribute to the reinvigoration and renewed focus of the LCC system or landscape scale systems like this, and really help inform those best practices for process and practice. One of which being the modeling approach, but there are also several other tools used, including how they partner, how they integrate the multiple dimensions, and then how they coordinate their efforts across these large spatial extents. And hopefully this forms the foundation for the future of systematic conservation planning. And that's that. So thank you very much, and I look forward to your questions and feedback.